What a headshot! What a head!
How's it, guys? This is Dayvy, FPL, and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. And in this video, I'll be taking you through the ultimate guide to the upcoming Game Week 33. So Game Week 33, if you like myself and are free hitting next week, Game Week 34, you're looking to use your free transfers for future game weeks, probably for double Game Week 37's bench boost. But if you're not like myself and have already used the free hit and are planning to wildcard in Game Week 35, you're going to be looking for some 2-week punts for this week and next week to make the most out of dead ending your squad. So in this video, I've combined both strategies. I'll be going over the game week schedule, going over some kind of 2-week punts, 1-week punts, and then for my same chip strategy, I'll be going over some double game week players for Game Week 37 that you guys should be looking at. But don't worry, all the usual ultimate guide topics such as the stats review and the Captaincy debate will be in this video. So if that's something you guys are interested in, sit back, relax, and let's get straight into it. So the stats review is going to start off this ultimate guide as usual. Now for Game Week 33, it's going to be quite interesting. This is kind of the first stats that we're going to be looking at before preparing for the kind of free hit on 34 and onwards. It's really interesting to see which teams are kind of on form and have been on form this entire season. Now as always, I'll be going over those two kind of sections, going over the entire season as a whole, then skipping to the last 6 games at a minimum, so we get kind of both lenses. Now I'll be going over the attacking numbers and the defensive numbers as always, so let's jump into those attacking ones. Now my stat of choice is going to be XG on penalty. All these stats are per 90 minutes and came straight from Fantasy Football Fix. I use the Opta Sandbox tool for these videos. So over the entire season, the best attacking sides, Liverpool and Man City, both with kind of 2.00 and upwards XG on penalty. And as mentioned, that's per game. They're then followed by Newcastle, Arsenal, Spurs, and finally Aston Villa. And these are quite expected as most of these teams have had pretty good Premier League seasons. Now as always on a free hit, I just want to remind you guys that just because a team doesn't have a double doesn't mean that they're not going to perform well. So all eyes on those assets that don't double in 34. Now on the right hand side, over the entire season, the worst attacks. So definitely if you guys have defenders facing these teams, the chance of a clean sheet should be pretty strong. So the top 2 teams there, Sheffield United and Burnley. It's no coincidence there that Chelsea played both those 2 teams over the last 3 game weeks. And guess what? They conceded to both of them. So I guess that tells you all you need to know about that Chelsea defense conceding to the worst 2 attacks in the Prem, and they followed by Crystal Palace, Nottingham Forest, Luton, and finally Wolves. Now as the season kind of comes to an end, these teams might play more freely, they might be quite more attacking, and I think that's what we've seen over the past couple of game weeks. Now unfortunately, the one team I'm looking at there is going to be Crystal Palace on the free at 34. I was looking at someone like an Eze or an Elise, or even a double up, and seeing their attacking numbers have been so bad this season, that definitely puts a dampener on it. Same could be said about those Wolves assets, also looking at them for the free hit on 34, and they haven't been too great to be honest. But this is over the entire season. Some of these teams might have changed form with the new Crystal Palace manager, maybe they're more attacking. That'll be interesting to see in terms of the inform stats, so let's jump straight into those. Now these are going to be for the last 6 games at a minimum. The reason I'm saying minimum is that some teams are double game weeks, some teams are blank game weeks, and therefore when you use kind of a game week filter, some teams have played more, some teams have played less. But don't worry, the minimum amount of games is going to be 6 games. Some teams have played a maximum of 8 though, so those stats might be normalized a little bit. So definitely the top 2 attacks there, Liverpool and Man City both posting improved attacking numbers. I mean 2.54 is a great amount of XG. Now the problem with Liverpool though is they haven't been finishing those chances. For example, let's look at kind of United this weekend. Salah had a bunch of XG, just couldn't finish his chances and had to rely on a penalty to get you FPL points. But once again, Liverpool and Man City, you guys have to look at these assets. It's the reason I'm looking at Phil Foden this week. He's a great asset to get, especially with them putting up these XG numbers. Now they followed by Spurs, Chelsea, Arsenal, and finally Nottingham Forest. Spurs a little bit of surprise. They recently haven't been that great. It might be like Liverpool not kind of converting those chances, as Son hasn't got the most amount of points over the last few game weeks. Now the big news that dropped recently was going to be that kind of double game week 35 for Spurs and Chelsea. Both sides putting up good attacking numbers, whereas their defenses haven't been great. So you prioritize the attacks if you guys are looking for those 2 teams. Otherwise, Arsenal and Nottingham Forest come up next. Now in terms of the worst attacks over the last kind of 6 games at a minimum, Sheffield United yet again the worst team, but they follow closely by Wolves, Burnley, Crystal Palace, Brighton, and finally Luton. So unfortunately, Crystal Palace haven't really improved on those numbers recently, and therefore they might be one to avoid on the free hit in 34. But once again, on the left hand side, target these teams for their attacks, and the right hand side, if your defenders are playing them, target those defenders. Now the slightly more interesting stat is going to come from the defensive options. It's actually going to be the worst defenses to kind of target. The reason I'm saying this is that for your kind of Captaincy debates for which attackers to kind of target, this stat is going to tell you what teams are favorable. But on the left-hand side, we're going to be going over expected clean sheets per 90 minutes, and that's going to be Arsenal at the top there with 0.49. Now they follow closely by Man City, but then we have Liverpool, Nottingham Forest, Newcastle, and finally Brighton, so some massive switch-ups have been over this entire season. Even though Newcastle's defense recently hasn't been great, they're still putting up good numbers over the entire season, and if they can replicate those numbers at the end of the season, might be looking at some of their cheaper defenders. Otherwise, Nottingham Forest and Brighton are slight surprises yet, to be honest, and a Liverpool defender in Game Week 34 might be one to look at. But my favourite stat on the right hand side is going to be expected goals conceded per 90 minutes, Luton at the top with 2.2. So that's kind of the reason I'm looking at maybe bringing in a full Foden this week, plays Luton at home, that's a great fixture, and I expect him to do well if he starts. We then have Sheffield United, and interesting enough, Man United, their numbers have gone down quite dramatically recently, and that's taken them to the third worst defence this season. We then have West Ham, Burnley and Fulham. If you guys are looking at Salah, Salah, Darwin Núñez, just remember they do face West Ham after Game Week 34, but there are quite a few other assets we could potentially be looking at. So all these teams over the entire season have the worst XG considered numbers per game, and that's why you guys target them for Captaincy as well as attackers. Let's see if those numbers have improved over the last kind of 6 games at a minimum. We have also at the top there with a ridiculous 0.63, definitely the defense to target if you guys aren't going there. Otherwise, Brighton have improved in form at the second place, followed by Man City, Liverpool, Nottingham Forest, and finally Spurs. And all I'll say is that I haven't been getting those Spurs clean sheets, even though the defensive numbers are good. So this shows you, just because the stats are slightly better, doesn't mean they are keeping clean sheets, just means they are expected to actually do better. But on the right hand side, you guys can see why United are the third worst defense. They have 2.58 XG considered per game over the last 6 games at a minimum, really haven't been great over the past couple game weeks. Otherwise, the usual suspects, Luton, Sheffield United, West Ham and Burnley, with finally Brentford at 1.88. So these teams are the out of form defenses at the moment. Hopefully you guys have a few options featuring against them in the future game weeks. Now as always, if you guys want to go check out your own stats, go over to Fix. Their Opta stat sandbox is super useful and contains basically every stat that you guys would want. Once again, a reminder, with that free hit in Game Week 34 fastly approaching, next week we'll do a refresher of this to get the most up-to-date teams as possible. But nice to get a little bit of a starter for the stats at the moment. Now the next talking point I want to go over is going to be more of a holistic overview of the game week schedule from now to the end of the season, and I'll be detailing some teams to target from now till then. Now as mentioned, there's 2 different sections of this. There's the section of you guys that are using the wildcard in Game Week 35, you then dead ending into Game Week 34's double, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on. But for my own team, I wildcarded in Game Week 30, I'll be using the free hit in Game Week 34, and therefore the chances I use for now to the end of the season will largely revolve around my Game Week 37 bench boost. This might be moved to a Game Week 35 bench boost if I do feel like that'll get me more points, but the strategy still stays almost the same. So the graphic I'm going to put up on screen right now is going to be from the ever reliable Ben Krellin. Go check him out if you guys haven't over on Twitter. This graphic is quite useful for your kind of game week planning. Now as mentioned, the Game Week 37 doubles haven't been confirmed yet, but they're very likely, but there might be a small chance that they are moved to other game weeks. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to trust Ben Krellin's predictions, and I do expect them to fall in 37 anyways, and that's why I'm targeting this for my bench boost, as there are a few doubles. So the teams to target are going to be Chelsea, Spurs, City, Brighton, Newcastle and finally United, and we have seen a few of those teams over on our best teams attacking and defensive wise. Also, the Game Week 35 double has been confirmed. Therefore, Chelsea and Spurs have 2 doubles in 3 game weeks, which is why they are quite popular at the moment. So what you guys have to also look at though is from Game Week 33, Game Week 35 and Game Week 36, which teams have great fixtures, and that's why I do actually like Man City. Also want to give a shout out to Brighton there. You guys would have seen their defensive numbers have improved recently, and they have some good fixtures leading up to Game Week 37's double. United also have Burnley at 35, but unfortunately with all the double game weeks for Chelsea and Spurs happening, that's how I was kind of looking at a bench boost because I've got United options on my bench. Also, I want to highlight Newcastle, Sheffield United and Burnley in consecutive game weeks from Game Week 35 to 36, and that's why Isaac's going nowhere in my starting 11. But when you guys saw my transfer plan, you might be asking me why I'm taking out Saka for someone like a Phil Foden. Well, my hope is with the better Man City fixtures and the upcoming double in 37 he performs better. Just a reminder, I'm free hitting Game Week 34. Also want to point you guys' attention to Game Week 38. There's some really good fixtures on the cards here, especially for a team like Spurs, who have Sheffield United away in 38. Chelsea also have a pretty good game against Bournemouth at home, however, wouldn't trust their defense, but stranger things have happened in the last game week of the season. Other than them, I would target the teams with home fixtures, and that's Man City with West Ham at home. So basically what I'm trying to say here is that if you guys are free hitting Game Week 34, you have to do transfers to prepare for the upcoming game weeks, especially if you're bench boosting Game Week 37's double. Now, if you guys aren't and use the free hit in Game Week 29, for example, if you're looking to dead end into double Game Week 34, let's go over some 1 week punts. So what I've done is I put the 7 teams that have a double Game Week on screen, also with their Game Week 33 fixture. Now, in terms of double Game Weeks, I definitely favour the Liverpool one, and they also have Crystal Palace at home this Game Week. Crystal Palace have 2 home games as well, but unfortunately, they face Liverpool in Game Week 33, and therefore I'd probably avoid them till next Game Week. Sheffield United also have an attractive fixture against Burnley at home, but you guys have seen their attacking stats this season. I think Bournemouth also a team to look at if you guys don't have a Dom Solanke, you can always bring him in, has 2 away games in 34, but United at home in Game Week 33, and you've seen the defensive numbers at the moment. Arsenal also with their defense looking so strong, I mean Aston Villa at home isn't that bad of a fixture, on paper it might be strong, but they've been conceding recently, and that's why it might be tough to actually sell Saka. But as mentioned, Liverpool at the moment have to have the priority. We've just seen that Jota and Trent are back in training, and that might put a dampener on expected minutes for this double game week. Unfortunately though, the Game Week 33 fixtures aren't that great, though these teams are kind of playing better squads, but Game Week 34's doubles does have some potential upside. Let me know in the comments down below, are you guys going for an outside punt, maybe on someone like a Sheffield United attacker? And what do you guys have to see out of Trent this week to actually bring him in for Game Week 34? Now the last talking point I want to go over is going to be all about the Captaincy debate, which this week might be another interesting one, like we saw in Game Week 32. Now in my opinion, there are quite a few options. I want to give a shout out to someone like an Ivan Toney. Was a little bit surprised by his benching in Game Week 32, but if he is fine for Game Week 33, Sheffield United's a great game. So he's kind of my outside punt at the moment, but I do prefer the other 3 options on screen that you'll see, starting off with Erling Haaland against Luton at home. Now if we knew that Erling Haaland was going to start against Luton at home, he'd definitely be the most popular option this week, but with Real Madrid either side of this fixture, there might be some rotation. Now I think in Game Week 31 he was rested for the entire fixture, and therefore there is some speculation of a potential resting, but I'm actually pretty confident that he starts this game week. In my opinion, even fixers saying it, he's the best option with 8.4 projected points, and he currently has the armband in my squad. Now my second favourite option is going to be Mo Salah, all eyes though on the kind of Atalanta game coming up on Thursday. If he is rested as expected, he should be fine for the weekend, and Crystal Palace at home should be a great game. Now he's projected to score 7.4, so 1 point less than Erling Haaland, but I guess he has the better expected minutes. Now the final option is the best expected minutes, it's going to be Cole Palmer. Yes, he might be subbed early on like we saw in Game Week 32, but chances are he plays the full 90 minutes. Now Everton at home is also a pretty strong game, then this might be quite an attacking one, and even though he's predicted to score 5.3 points, I'm expecting quite a good performance. An added bonus is that he does play the Monday night fixture, so you guys have your captain on the last game day of the game week, which is always quite exciting. I do however think it's going to be between Salah and Haaland this week. Injuries obviously pending, City do play Real Madrid coming up in a few hours time, but if Erling Haaland does look like he's going to start against Luton on the weekend, he'll be my favourite option. In the comments down below, who's your captain for the upcoming Game Week 33? Is it someone that you guys see on screen, or is it someone completely differential? Always like to see what you guys' thoughts are. Now if you guys have any other talking points, comment them down below, or my Discord server where I am slightly more active. Couldn't cover everything in one video. Hope you guys keep your eyes on that European football, lots of kind of Champions League football and Europa football coming up. Fingers crossed there's no major injuries. But this is basically going to wrap up the video guys. Hope you guys did enjoy it. Please don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. And I'm going to see you guys for the team selection coming up shortly, where I have to use both free transfers. But for the time being, I'm Isai, it's been Dayvy FPL, and I'm out. Cheers, bye.